Welcome back to the Alter Ego Bros. I'm Andy, that's Nick, and today we're going to be talking about obsession. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button, and let's just jump into it. I landed at an 8 out of 10. I'm impressed with the storyline, and I gotta say, Nikki is for sure going to prison.
I gave Obsession a 10 out of 10. I thought that this was truly disgusting, but in a good way. I have never been so uncomfortable and creeped out in a movie in my entire life. So great job, everybody.
So that's going to give us a combined channel rating of 9 out of 10. Well, as usual, let's just kind of jump into the storyline then. So speaking of feeling uncomfortable, that was like one of my main notes I had about this, is that it's anxiety driven, and they just really take advantage of the audience's emotions and feelings. So the story, it starts off pretty slow and it starts to build and build, but it's like a linear line as it's building and building. Like it is just a nice steady stream of just things just adding on top of each other to the point where it hits its climax in the end, and the climax is incredibly rewarding. I felt like the whole storyline played out exactly how it needed to play out. I did think that Bear was incredibly frustrating. I hated that motherfucker so much, but that's just his character, and he nailed it. The character was fantastic. So in my opinion, when talking about the ending, one of the big aspects here is that they really try to portray suicide, and I think they did it a little too well, to be honest with you. And usually when you portray suicide in a movie, I think it's really risky. Both because it's triggering for people, but also because I think it's difficult to do a good enough job to make the audience feel the impact of it. And in this one, it's almost like I could feel the gun in his hand and in his mouth, and I could feel him holding the pill bottle. And every part of me just wanted to reach out through the screen just to try to help him. It was a little too real, man. You're supposed to laugh at that.
No, when you said you wanted to go and help him, help him kill himself? Here you go, buddy. There you go.
Exactly. Come on.
Pills taste good.
But anyway, so I thought that was really, really well done. And then to have almost the twist on there, which not breaks the rules, but it kind of just bends the rules and tricks the rules of this wish game, and has a little bit of a twist in there too, which is, I feel like I saw every single bit of this movie coming, but where it toyed with me, it was a matter of when it was going to come, because there was a certain point where I think they would draw it out, making you think something's going to happen, and then it didn't happen for long enough that you let your guard down, and then wham, it just hit you. That's why the story was just an amazing story.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. The concept was simple. The situation was somewhat relatable. It was just no fluff, straight into it, and really sits you into the front row of everything that's going on. I feel about this movie very similarly to how I felt about A Big, Bold, Beautiful Journey, being a very genre defining version of that film. This is a very horror defined film, and it just ticks all the boxes for me. So if you want to show somebody or recommend somebody what is pure horror, this would be the movie that I would point them to. I was right there with you. I was ready to go and help Bear. Just be like, all right, dude, you just need to end this already. Stop being a coward. Just get it done. Halfway through the movie, and you just grow increasingly disgusted, increasingly frustrated with his character, and every time he chickens out, even to at the end when he has those pills and he's eating them, but the last second he tries to make himself throw up, and then the twist happens, and you're like, if that didn't happen, he would have been perfectly happy with what was going on, and that is so fucked up.
I have nothing to say about music or cinematography, so.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I thought it was inventive, bro. That music was crazy.
I don't remember any distinctive moments in the music, so that's why I just
it was constant. So he had this little piano theme going on, And it started off normal at the beginning. It kind of played off of like the music store vibe. And then you really hear it start to like twinge and twang when after the wish happens, right? And he goes in and he hugs Nikki for that first time. And there's like this huge run up, but then all along the way, like something's just not quite right with it. It's not like an off note, more as it's just like an unfinished chord there, just giving you that little bit of suspense of like, okay, but then it finishes itself. And then throughout the film, as things start to unravel, the music starts unraveling. It starts becoming more like missed notes and off-key sounds as like during scenes, and then that run just starts being it starts twisting and becoming something completely different, that by the end of the film we get this like somewhat commercial sounding video or music as the credits play, and we're watching like a blank screen and stuff like that. And it was haunting. It was weird. It was out there, and I thought it paid great attention to detail. So that's Rock Burwell. And as far as I saw, that was the first movie that they'd ever been the composer of, and I was impressed by it.
Damn. All right, so let's talk about special effects then. So special effects, it seemed to me that they really leaned on practical over CGI, which was very appreciated. And the practical, man, like as weird as it is, I'll just say it to you guys. I've seen a lot of dead cats. I've seen weirdly a lot of dead cats in my life. And and that looked like a dead cat to me. It was stiff and like their fuckers are stiff, man, and they're skinny. So I was just like, that looks good. That was convincing and whatnot. And I really liked the freaking sandwich too, when they had the dead cat in the sandwich.
Yeah.
I was like, that looks like dead cat in a sandwich. I don't know what that looks like, but if it looks like anything, it probably looks like that. That was so disgusting. The only part that I felt like didn't do such a good job was like the close-up of Sarah when she got her face smashed in, like the eyes and everything. It kind of reminded me of like an Indiana Jones Raiders of the Lost Ark moment with the face melting type of thing. I felt like maybe like the camera was too close and the practical was giving itself away. But when they showed the dead body later on and you saw the full body from a little bit more of a distance, I thought it looked like an authentic dead body. And maybe it was. Maybe that was a person there, but I just assume it's practical. I don't know why. But I did know one thing. I was curious if you noticed. Did you notice towards the end when they're in the park in the car, did you notice how big the steering wheel was?
Yes.
That fucker was huge, right? Like
yeah, it was.
And I think it was designed because of this face smashing thing that they needed to do. But I was like, that's a fucking big steering wheel. No one's going to talk about this. It was like driving a bus in there. But overall, special effects was really, I'm honestly not even sure where CGI came into play, to be honest. Like, so that's how good it was.
I know one spot specifically when Nikki does that freaky fucking reverse thing.
Oh,
she's
like
standing
walking
there
backwards.
talking about, and then she does the reverse. There was CGI in there, but
was it CGI or did they just like play a film backwards or something?
No, it wasn't. It was CGI because she like it was just otherworldly how they did it. It was done very well. Everybody in my theater audibly gasped at that moment. I don't know why it was so freaky and so just strange and weird, but it took everybody off guard. And then back to the car scene. I'll raise you one. Did you notice anything about the brick?
No.
It was really, I think that's kind of the point. But when they're doing that and their face is bashing, they got the brick, you could tell that the brick was foam because it was squishing like foam when the face would hit and stuff like that. And that was the one thing where I was like, okay, I'll let that slide, whatever. The scene itself, everybody knew what was coming. Everybody knew what was going to happen, and they let that scene play out for a good 5-6 minutes, right? Like you said earlier, just long enough for you to kind of let down your guard a little bit, and then bam. But I kept a lookout, and you could see through the window because the window was like clear.
The window was like clear
on Sarah's side as well, whereas when you looked at Bear, his was all fogged up. And you could see her coming right at that moment, right before you hear the scream, and you're like, oh shit.
So when I mentioned earlier too that like it lets your guard down and then it hits you, that's literally the most impactful moment where it does that throughout the film. But that was the most impactful one because I think everyone's waiting for her to come at some point. I wasn't sure how she was going to come and approach that. Certainly wasn't expecting her to be running and just straight smashing and straight killing Sarah right there. That was the shock part. So let's jump over to acting real quick. So first of all, I just want to mention that everyone played their character very naturally. I think that part of that goes to the writing and writing characters that feel pretty relatable and natural and people you might have met in your life. But the actors did a great job of being very consistent with their characters too. I think Nikki, though, needs to get a little bit special appreciation. And this is the niche moment that I'm not sure how many people are going to talk about. But when you hear Nikki's internal prisoned voice, there's probably a handful of lines where she comes and actually says something when she like wakes up or like has control over her body again. And those moments probably aren't shot as they chronologically shoot this movie. They don't shoot the movie chronologically. So to keep in mind where the state of like sanity is with Nikki throughout where we are in the story beat, you hear the desperate cry for just like help in this. I just want to be done. It builds and builds and builds. You just feel her becoming more and more desperate to have this just be over with in any way, shape, or form.
I think the entire cast was beautifully cast. I don't think they could have done a better job of getting all the actors that they did. But like you said, Nikki's character was just elevated to that next level. And that's really what brought everything else into the realm of reality and helped you suspend your disbelief, because it was instant, right? As soon as the One Wish Willow was broken, we see her and her silhouette and something's just wrong. You know by the way that she's standing that something's wrong. And all those are internal choices. You can't really talk about this movie without talking about Bear either, and how frustrating and how cowardly and how just awful of a character that he was. And kudos, dude. Like, truly, truly hated your performance because it was that well. It was that well done. It was so good that I wanted to strangle you. I wanted to just help everybody out and get it over with, right?
But as usual, don't just take our word for it. Let's see what the internet has to say. So looking online, it looks like the audience has given this about an 8.5 out of 10, as well as the critics seem to also be at an 8.5 out of 10. So about right in line as usual. We're that good, I know. You can brag about us in the comment section after you like and subscribe. But, since, everyone seems to be pretty high, I'm sure there's some negative reviews out there we should probably take a look at and see what they have to say. So here's a 1 out of 10 that we found online. A waste of time and money. Oh, I said that backwards. They said it weird. A waste of money and time. Who says it that way? Okay, anyway. Obsession honestly reminded me a lot of Long Legs. Holy, here we go again.
I know, right?
Except possibly even worse. Both movies get praised like they're some kind of groundbreaking horror masterpieces, but I just don't see it. Obsession was painfully slow, overloaded with drawn-out dialogue, and barely felt like horror at all. Most of the time, it played more like a weird, dark comedy with characters making stupid decisions. At this point, I'm seriously starting to doubt online ratings and critic reviews because the hype around movies like this feels completely disconnected from the actual experience of watching them. Just because a movie is artsy, awkward, or different doesn't automatically make it good. And a lot of people disagree with you.
So when the movie was over, I instantly dreaded looking for the bottom audience scores for this one because I knew it was going to have things like this. And it's all over. It's just people wanting to be like, well, actually, it wasn't scary at all. I found it quite silly, to be honest. To borrow from somebody else that I know, to just say it's for simpletons out there, something along those lines, like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Why would you say something like that? Right? Who does that? Nobody does that. Right, Andy? Nobody does that.
I did that.
I think they bring up a very weird point about the characters' decisions in this movie, because unlike what you would call your stereotypical horror movies where people legitimately just make poor decisions, I think that these decisions were completely intentional, especially on Bear's end of thing. That's the point, is that he's the one who's obsessed. He's the one who can't let it go to even save somebody who he considered a friend. He couldn't do it. He was obsessed. He is the villain throughout the entire thing. And when you look back at even before the wish happened and some of the things that he does, like his cat dies right at the beginning. And how does he console himself? By stalking Nikki online through social media. Like, what the fuck was that? That was a huge red flag, and people seem to just be flying by that point. What I've seen online is a lot of people were on Bear's side until that night scene. And I'm like, that's way too late in the movie to be picking up on this shit. Like, he was a bad person from the get-go, bro.
Yeah, that's a good point that we didn't really hit on too much. But towards the end, you realize he kind of just rather be in this miserable state because he gets to be with like this girl that he's like madly in love with, right? I get the movie feels slow to you. I think in the beginning it can feel that way because maybe in horror movies you're used to things jumping at you in the beginning, but this is a slow burn that really just lets you mold right into the storyline. And I think this just was too slow for them, but I think they just didn't quite understand how the story was developing. And that becomes kind of obvious too when you're saying like this is more of a comedy and that these characters making stupid decisions. I think maybe the relation to that is if you were a bear, you wouldn't be making the choices he's making. A lot of people wouldn't. That's when it becomes maybe comical or stupid to you, and I totally understand that. But you have to understand you're being told the story. And the story is about a guy who doesn't have the ability to realize that, and about a guy who's actually kind of okay with that in a weird, twisted way. And so when you miss those two things, I can understand why you hated this movie. So I would suggest, instead of getting mad at critics and the online audience, when millions of people agree that this is a good movie, take a look at yourself and maybe see what they have to say to see what you might have missed and go rewatch it. And that's going to conclude our time together. We're so sorry, but we have to let you go, mostly because we don't want to talk to you anymore. But Remember to like and subscribe so we can talk to you next week. And remember, we're just two regular dudes
doing regular reviews.
Their fuckers are stiff, man. That fucker was huge, right?
Oh, shit.